Ben retired at 48. Almost all of his money was sitting in a traditional retirement account, the kind the government says you can't touch until 59 and a half. Take it out before then, and you'll pay a 10% penalty on top of the tax. So Ben had a problem most early retirees face. He had plenty of money. He just couldn't reach it for another 11 and a half years. At least that's what the rules seem to say. Except he's been living off that money, penalty-free, ever since. He didn't break a rule. He built a ladder. It's called the Roth conversion ladder, and it's one of the most elegant moves in the entire tax code. Let me show you how it works. Start with the problem. When you retire early, most of your savings is usually locked inside pre-tax accounts, a traditional 401k or IRA. Great for growth, but guarded by that 59 and a half wall. The rule of 55 can help if you leave a job at 55 or later. But what if you're 48, like Ben? You're years too early for that. Here's the door almost nobody uses. It's built on a quirk of Roth IRAs. When you convert money from a traditional account into a Roth, you pay the ordinary income tax on it that year. But then something powerful happens. After that converted money has sat in the Roth for 5 years, you can pull it back out with no penalty and no further tax. Not at 59 and a half. 5 years after you converted it, at any age. Every conversion starts its own 5-year clock. And that is the secret to the ladder. Here's the picture. In your first year of early retirement, you convert a chunk, say 1 year's worth of living expenses, from your traditional IRA into your Roth. You pay the tax on it. Then you do the same thing the next year, and the next. 5 years later, that very first conversion comes of age. You withdraw it, penalty-free, tax-free, because you already paid the tax back when you converted. The next year, the second conversion matures, and you withdraw that, then the third. Each rung you built 5 years ago becomes a step you walk down today. Convert at the top, withdraw at the bottom 5 years later, over and over. A staircase of income that carries you all the way to 59 and a half, where the wall simply disappears and all of it becomes freely available. Now, why is this so powerful? Because of when you pay the tax. Ben converts about $50,000 a year, but he's retired. He has almost no other income. So those conversions fill up the lowest tax brackets, taxed at 10 or 12%, instead of the much higher rate he paid during his working years. He's not avoiding the tax. He's choosing to pay it in the cheapest years of his life. This is the same low-income window that makes Roth conversions and 0% capital gains so valuable. The quiet gap years after the paycheck stops and before Social Security and required distributions begin. The ladder turns that window into a tax-efficient income machine. But there's a catch you absolutely have to plan for. The ladder has a 5-year head start problem. Your first conversion isn't available for 5 years. So for those first 5 years, you need money to live on from somewhere else. A regular taxable brokerage account, cash savings, or Roth contributions you can always withdraw. The ladder funds year 6 and beyond. It does not fund years 1 through 5. Forget that, and the whole plan falls apart. There's also a detail that trips people up because there are actually 2 different 5-year rules for Roth accounts. The first is the one we've been using, the conversion clock, which controls the 10% penalty on the money you converted. The second is a separate rule that controls whether your earnings come out tax-free, and that one requires you to be 59 and a half and to have had a Roth for 5 years. The latter lives entirely on the first rule. You withdraw only the principal you converted, never the earnings. And thanks to the IRS ordering rules, that's exactly what comes out first. The earnings stay parked, growing tax-free, until you're 59 and a half and they're free too. Let's put it together for Ben. He retires at 48. For 5 years, ages 48 to 52, he lives off a taxable account he set aside for exactly this bridge. Every one of those years, he also converts $50,000 into his Roth, paying tax at low rates. Then at 53, the first rung matures. From that point on, every year, a $50,000 conversion comes of age, and he withdraws it. No penalty, no new tax. The ladder carries him from 53 all the way to 59 and a half, when every door opens and the rules stop mattering. He reached his retirement money 11 years early, not by breaking a rule, by reading one almost nobody bothers to read. So who is this really for? It's for early retirees with large pre-tax balances and a low-income stretch ahead of them. If you're going to need the money within the next 5 years, the ladder alone won't reach it in time. That's where the rule of 55 or a 72T might fit instead. The ladder rewards the people who can plan a few years ahead. And one more quiet bonus. A Roth IRA has no required minimum distributions for the original owner. So the money you ladder into it doesn't just become reachable, it can keep growing, tax-free for the rest of your life on your schedule and no one else's. This video is for educational purposes only, not financial, tax, or legal advice. The rules described are federal, figures are illustrative, and the order and timing of conversions is something to plan carefully with a professional. Talk to a qualified tax advisor before building a ladder of your own. The wall at 59.5 is real, but it turns out it has a door, and the key is just 5 years and a little patience. If this opened a door you didn't know was there, subscribe. Every week we uncover one financial blind spot that can quietly cost or save families thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars. And send this to anyone dreaming about retiring early. The wall isn't as solid as it looks.